Hey everyone, post-production Russell here. So it wouldn't be a season of Big Brother coverage with me if I didn't mess up at some point during the season and have some sort of technical difficulties. I didn't set up my microphone settings properly before I started filming, and I didn't realize I messed up until I actually started editing the footage. So it turns out that all of the videos ended up using the incorrect microphone to pick up the audio. So if the audio does sound a bit more spacious and echoey and you do hear a lot of wind sounds in the background, that is because I messed up, and I do apologize if this does negatively impact your viewing experience. But with all of that preamble out of the way, I hope you can at least try and enjoy this video.
Week 6 of Big Brother 27 has come and gone, and I think we're finally starting to hit our stride with this season. For the second week in a row, we've had an HOH make a huge move in taking out a huge power player who is not only on the other side of the house, but genuinely had the potential to go very far in the endgame. But they eventually do get sniped out before they can even make that endgame run. But how did it all break down? Well, that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to be recapping the events of Week 6 of Big Brother 27 and giving my updated power rankings. So with all of that preamble out of the way, it is the one and only RJ21 here, and let's get into the Big Brother 27 Week 6 recap and power ranking. Week 6 starts off with the Party Slasher HOH competition, which I actually really liked, both from a competitive standpoint and from a visual standpoint. Basically, the house guests were given 5 minutes to study 6 different rooms and study all the details. Then, in every single round, the Party Slasher would tell them which rooms were safe, and the house guests would have to remember specific details about each room in order to select the correct one. If they select the correct one, they survive and they move on to the next round. But if they are incorrect, they get quote-unquote killed and are eliminated from the competition. The last house guest standing will win and become the new head of household. Ultimately, the competition comes down to Morgan and Rachel, with Rachel coming out on top and becoming the new head of household. After the HOH competition, we see the likes of Mickey, Morgan, and Vince absolutely terrified of this result, because this is probably the worst case scenario for all of them, considering that they have had really bad blood with Rachel in these prior weeks. We then see Ashley and Rachel talking about how Rachel needed to win this competition, because if she didn't win this HOH, she was most likely going to be going up on the block and was probably going to be a huge target for the other side of the house to get out. We then see Rachel and Vince having a conversation where Vince is trying his best to get some sort of safety or some sort of leeway with Rachel, and he's asking that, if I'm gonna get nominated, can you at least put me up as an initial nominee so I can compete in the veto? And Rachel absolutely destroys him by saying, I think it's funny that you think you're a big enough target to be backdoored. And it's absolutely savage, but it's also kind of pitiful how Vince tries to earn his safety. But let's be honest, he was never going to earn it in this instance. We then see Rachel having a conversation with Kelley, where Rachel knows that she needs to pick up numbers for future weeks. And noticing how Kelley doesn't really have any loyal allies at this point, Rachel is trying to pick Kelley up as a number for her side in case she wants to make a big move and needs votes. And Kelley is definitely receptive to that, considering the fact that, like I said earlier, Kelley doesn't have any true allies at this point. We then see Rachel and Mickey having a conversation where Mickey is trying to pry information out of Rachel to see where she really lies. And Mickey is so entitled in this instance to where she believes that Rachel has to be the one to fess up information, even though Rachel is the one who's HOH and holds all the power this week, which is kind of insane to me. But through this conversation, Mickey doesn't really get good vibes from Rachel. So Mickey and Rachel have yet another conversation where Mickey is trying to expose the other side of the house in the likes of Keanu and Kelley to try and shift the target away from her and onto them. And it actually does some pretty good work as Rachel begins to start to question Kelley's loyalty. So Rachel and Kelley have a conversation where Rachel confronts Kelley about everything Kelley has been doing and instigating and all the information that she's been leaking. And Kelley knows in this moment she absolutely messed up and she just can't stop herself from causing all of these problems for herself. And this really gets Rachel thinking. I mean, she's literally in the diary room holding Mickey and Kelley's keys, contemplating which one of the two of them she should put up. But ultimately, at the nomination ceremony, Rachel chooses to nominate Vince, Morgan, and Mickey, with there not being any primary target at this point. After the nomination ceremony, Mickey absolutely crashes out. She is going on these tirades about how Rachel is a horrible person and that having a husband and 2 kids doesn't make you a better person, and that Rachel is the same evil, conniving, manipulative player that she was 15 years ago, when it's like, Rachel wasn't even a manipulative player back when she played on Big Brothers 12 and 13. Like, if anything, Rachel is probably the most blunt and straightforward player on those seasons. So Mickey has completely incorrect reads on Rachel as a player, but I have to say, it was so satisfying seeing Mickey finally get some sort of downfall in this moment. We then see Rachel and Morgan having a conversation where Morgan and Rachel are trying to mend bridges between the two of them, asking where things really went wrong and how Rachel heard that Morgan was potentially going to put Rachel up as a pawn. And Morgan does admit to this, and this does nothing but further create a divide between the two of them. We then see Rachel and Keanu celebrating Rachel's nominations, as Keanu is absolutely hyped that Rachel made a huge move for her game and that this is going to entirely shake up the entire house. However, not all of Rachel's allies actually agree with these nominations, as Rachel and Ashley have a conversation where Ashley does not agree with Mickey being put up on the block. For selfish game reasons, Ashley does not want Mickey on the block because Mickey is a potential number for Ashley. So Ashley is hardcore campaigning for Mickey to come off of the block if Rachel were to win the power veto. And this has the exact opposite effect, at least initially, as it makes Rachel believe that Ashley is more so in Mickey's camp instead of her own, and that makes Rachel trust Ashley just a little bit less. We then see Mickey and Rachel having a conversation where Mickey is trying to do absolute damage control to ensure that she isn't the target. She's lying to Rachel, saying that she believes in fresh starts and that she's willing to make amends and move forward in this game with her, when it's like, Mickey, no you're not. You are so going to be targeting Rachel at this point. But it does seem to have some pretty good effect, as at this point Rachel is somewhat considering whether or not she would use the power veto to save Mickey if she were to win it. We then see Rachel and Keanu having a conversation where they talk about how they need to stop butting heads and they need to work together with each other, because if they do that, they are both very strong forces and could absolutely run the table together. And they both agree to go from enemies to frenemies, which is honestly so funny to me. We then see Vince doing some sort of work to try and ensure that he has some sort of safety. He's having a conversation with Lauren where he is floating around the idea of if Lauren wins the power veto, Lauren should use the power veto to save himself. But Lauren is not receptive to this at all, mostly because I don't think she is awake and actually conscious in this conversation. But Vince is not getting this out of this conversation what he wants. We then pick players for the veto competition, with the head of household and Rachel, the three nominees in Mickey, Morgan, and Vince, and Will and Lauren, who are selected by random draw, will compete in this week's veto competition. And this week's veto is the iconic OTEV competition. If you haven't seen some of my previous videos, you would know that I love OTEV. It's probably one of my favorite recurring competitions in the history of Big Brother, and this year they had a really good theme with OTEV the Hogfather, and I absolutely love this one. I think this is a really funny one, especially with like the little tiny pig, like Little Stinky. It's so funny, and it really does lean into the theme of this. Like, it really does lean into like the wackiness of OTEV as a whole, and I just overall loved it. But for those of you who haven't watched OTEV, it's basically like a game of musical chairs, where in each round, OTEV is going to be asking for a rat of a house guest, and the house guests have to run and find that specific rat or rats and bring it back to OTEV. If you bring back either the incorrect rat or rats, or the last one up the ramp with the correct answer, you are eliminated. The last house guest standing will win the golden power veto. This OTEV was actually pretty interesting, as they were super competitive in this one. Like, they were going all out. And it's even funnier considering that in the middle of the competition, Mickey tries having a conversation with Lauren and asks Lauren to throw the competition to Mickey in the middle of the competition. Like, number one, I just find it absolutely insane that Mickey tried this, considering the fact that Lauren recognizes that if she doesn't win this veto and one of the nominees does, she's going to be the fourth nominee as the replacement nom. So Lauren has no incentive whatsoever to throw this competition. And I just find it really funny that Mickey tried this in the first place. But ultimately, after only 3 rounds, Lauren comes out on top and wins the golden power veto. After the veto competition, Rachel goes on defense. Every time Lauren has a conversation with one of the nominees, Rachel is also in that conversation, making sure that no talks of the veto being used come at all. Because Rachel does not want to name another replacement nominee, and she wants her noms to stay the same. Finally, after Rachel is done playing defense, Lauren actually has the ability to have some conversations about what she wants to do with the veto. She first has a conversation with Vince, where she tells Vince that she is leaning towards using it on him, but she is still undecided because she doesn't want to upset Rachel because she's scared of Rachel. So Lauren and Rachel have a conversation about what Lauren should do with the power of veto, and at the end of the conversation, they're more so leaning towards Lauren not using the power of veto as to not upset Rachel. We then see Lauren and Morgan having a conversation where Morgan leaks Zach's power and talks about how Zach didn't use his power of $10,000 to save himself because he wanted to keep both Morgan and Lauren safe. And because Zach did that, this is a sign that Morgan and Lauren should be working together in honor of Zach. And Lauren literally laughs at Morgan for trying this. Like, it's kind of sad, but it's really funny in all honesty that Morgan actually thought that this would work on Lauren. Rachel and Lauren then have another conversation where Lauren is telling Rachel that she is leaning towards actually using it, considering that she wants to keep her #1 ally in Vince safe, and this does not make Rachel happy whatsoever. We then see Lauren later having a conversation with Morgan and Vince where the both of them are trying to convince Lauren to use the power veto and do what's best for her game. But this conversation is shortly interrupted as Rachel enters the storage room with this really intimidating and scary aura that causes Lauren to literally scatter out of the room, and Rachel goes, "Real classy, you guys," and this starts a mini argument between Rachel, Vince, and Morgan, where Rachel is accusing Vince and Morgan of being super aggressive and trying to force Lauren into doing something that she doesn't want to do, when in actuality it's kind of what Rachel's trying to do, but that's besides the point. This argument is so petty, and it's honestly just another funny and humorous moment from Rachel. It is then 30 minutes before the veto ceremony where Lauren and Rachel have yet another conversation where Lauren says that she is most likely going to use the power veto to save Vince. And this is where Rachel starts taking drastic measures, as Rachel literally tells Lauren that if you use the power of veto, I'm going to nominate Rylie, and when I do that, that is going to be directly because of you. So if Rylie does end up going home, the blood is going to be on your hands. And Lauren doesn't believe this because she thinks that Rachel is bluffing, but if you know Rachel Rylie, you know that she doesn't bluff. So at the veto ceremony, Lauren, as she was sort of leaning towards doing, Lauren uses the power veto to save Vince, and Rachel sticks to her guns and nominates Rylie as the replacement nominee, shocking basically everybody in the house, leaving Rylie, Mickey, and Morgan as the final nominees going into the blockbuster. After the veto ceremony, Katherine is absolutely frustrated with Lauren because Katherine had told Lauren before the veto ceremony, hey, don't use the power veto because we don't want to risk Rylie going up on the block. But Lauren did it anyways, and this makes Katherine furious, not necessarily at Lauren, but more so at the situation as a whole, because now they have to rally the votes to try and keep Rylie in the house. But Keanu reaffirms to Katherine that they do have the votes because it would be Keanu, Lauren, Katherine, Kelley, and Vince. On the other side of the house, we see the likes of Rachel, Mickey, Will, and Ashley talking about how Rylie is a huge target. And now that Rylie is actually on the block, if Rylie does lose the blockbuster, this would be a perfect opportunity to get Rylie out of the house because he could eventually become an endgame threat that comes for their side. So this is the perfect moment for them to strike and snipe Rylie out of the game. However, those plans would be too straightforward and easy, especially on a season like this season, as Mickey is having way too many conversations. She's pulling out the M&Ms and counting votes with the likes of Katherine, and making really snide remarks about how Ashley is supposedly spending a lot of time with Rachel as the HOH. And then a group of Rachel, Ashley, Will, Morgan, and Vince come together and expose all of Mickey's lies and everything that Mickey has been doing in the house that has been super shady. And the 5 of them come together and form a new alliance called the Judges, which is, I'm pretty sure, the first genuine alliance we've had formed since week 1, which is absolutely insane to me, but finally we're getting some sort of unity in this house. We then get to the BB Blockbuster, which this week is called Settle the Score, which is essentially the perfect shot competition we've seen on seasons like Big Brother 18, Big Brother 19, and Big Brother 21. Basically, the HouseGuests have to roll a ball down a ramp and land it in a numbered slot. Whoever gets into the highest number slot in the shortest amount of time will win the Blockbuster and earn their safety. From the TV product, you would think that the competition is close between Morgan and Rylie as they're going back and forth, where Rylie lands a really big number of 29 and then he's intently staring and watching as what Morgan is doing. But then out of nowhere, Mickey lands at 38 and wins the Blockbuster, earning her safety, leaving Morgan and Rylie as the final nominees. At this point, there is a lot of campaigning, as the likes of Vince and Ava are kind of the swing votes, and they really don't necessarily know where they want to go with this vote, as their heart is telling them that they should keep Rylie in the house, but strategically they know it's better to get Rylie out of the house at this point. So ultimately, come the live vote, by a vote of 5-4, Morgan is safe, and Rylie is the 6th house guest to be evicted from the Big Brother house.
Yeah, feed them to the fishes. You're gonna be fish food.
Before we get into the power ranking, there is one thing I would like to address, and it is the Rylie and Katherine situation. I would first like to sincerely apologize for not handling the situation with the delicacy, care, and respect that it deserved from the very beginning. If you've been watching my previous weekly recaps and power rankings, whenever I would talk about Rylie and Katherine, I would approach it from a more lighthearted angle, more so talking about it like a one-sided showmance, where Katherine was not as interested in Rylie as Rylie was interested in Katherine. Kind of like Beast Mode Stalker on Big Brother 16 and his one-sided obsession over Amber. Adding on to that, we also get to see Katherine's confessionals in the edited episodes, and Katherine does admit to having genuine romantic feelings for Rylie in those episodes, and I am inclined to believe that those confessionals are true, as I don't personally see a reason for Katherine to lie in said confessionals, but that's besides the point. Even if Katherine does have romantic feelings for Rylie, that does not excuse Rylie's absolutely problematic behavior. Rylie constantly acts very aggressively towards Katherine, constantly demanding hugs and kisses from Katherine, and whenever she doesn't give him those things, he throws a fit and gives her the silent treatment, and it's only when Katherine eventually gives into those demands where Rylie begins to treat Katherine with basic human decency and then proceeds to love bomb the absolute hell out of her to try and make up for the way that he was acting in the past. Rylie also constantly gets into arguments with Katherine whenever Katherine tries to do something on her own, like talking strategy, and it's in these moments where Rylie yells at Katherine, telling her to shut up, lower her tone, and sit down, attempting to control literally everything about Katherine. I mean, it has literally gotten to the point where Katherine's family is reaching out to production because they fear for Katherine's safety that much. And that is so disappointing because it should have never gotten to that point in the first place. It's disgusting, it's dangerous, and Rylie should be counting his lucky stars that he is getting as good of an edit as he is. To put it shortly, I don't want any sort of silence on my behalf to be mistaken as complicity to the situation at large, as I genuinely hate Rylie and I find a lot of his actions to be absolutely deplorable, and I do not support anything that he does in the house whatsoever. I also do want to emphasize that I'm not just making this statement just because Rylie got evicted. I was going to make this statement no matter what in this episode, because all of these issues have been bubbling up to the surface, and I can no longer just simply poke fun or make fun of Rylie anymore, as this is truly dangerous behavior being exhibited by Rylie, and I can just no longer find any way to handle this situation with any sort of fun, lighthearted tone, and I finally needed to address it with the severity that I should have been treating it from the very beginning. And for that, I truly do want to apologize for not handling it in a more mature and a more proper manner. But with Rylie being evicted from the house, I can gladly say that Katherine Woodman has finally been freed.
Blame myself. There's nobody to blame but myself.
Now it's time to get into the power rankings. At number 12, the most recently evicted house guest, we have Rylie. And I've already expressed in the previous segment how I feel about Rylie. I find his actions to be absolutely disgusting and deplorable, and the fact that he was protected by the edit so much, Rylie is so lucky for that, and I honestly just genuinely hate the guy because of how disgusting I find his actions to be. But I feel like the previous segment already kind of exemplifies how I feel about that. In terms of Rylie's game, there's not really a lot to talk about. Rylie has had a very simplistic strategic mind for the game. He's always had the mindset of, I'm not going to come after you unless you come after me. And literally the first 3 weeks of the game, that's how he operated, because he wasn't doing anything in the house. He was just chilling and getting to know Katherine, and where Lord knows where that went. But by the time that he is blindsided in the Adrian vote, that's when Rylie starts playing like, oh, I actually need to start playing the game now. And then he wins HOH. Only for it to get taken, and he gets up getting nominated, and it's a really funny sequence, all things considered, and it is kind of like poetic karma for that to happen to Rylie. But after that, Rylie's just always been on the opposing side of like Rachel's side, and he never really did anything outside of that. He was just always a solidified number going against Rachel, and Rylie never really did anything in the game outside of that. He was just kind of there as a number and kind of as like a really scary, imposing force that could eventually become a comp beast in these later competitions if they were to get a bit more physical. So in all honesty, Rylie didn't really do much. I don't really care for Rylie's game. I don't really think he did anything that impactful. Like, I genuinely can't think of any single move that Rylie did that genuinely changed the trajectory of the season, except maybe letting Mickey have that HOH and sending Mickey on that absolute downward spiral. But I don't think Rylie necessarily intended that. Overall, Rylie's game is kind of just a whole plate of nothing really good, nothing really bad. He just was kind of there, kind of played his side, was loyal to that side, and ends up getting taken out because he doesn't have the numbers, which is why he ends up here at number 12.
If I go home this week, I will not see Katherine for the rest of the summer, and there is no way in hell I am letting that happen.
Now it's time to talk about the house guests that are actually still in the game. At number 11, the house guest I believe to be in the worst position in the house is Mickey. And if Mickey didn't win this blockbuster, she was 100% going to go home. Like, okay, in a situation between Mickey and Rylie, it is kind of up in the air whether or not Mickey actually does stay in that position. But if it was Mickey versus Morgan, Mickey was probably going to go home in a near unanimous vote. Yet Mickey was so delusional into thinking that she had the votes to stay no matter what, which is kind of funny, but also absolutely insane this week. I think Mickey did a lot, and I mean a lot, of really bad social work this week. I think Mickey is a primarily strategic player over a social player. She's somebody that really prioritizes the numbers and making the most optimal strategic move for herself by the end of it. But because she's so focused on the numbers and making the right move, she mismanages all of her relationships. She thinks she has this undying bond with the likes of Rylie and Katherine, which is honestly never even there. And because she's so focused on that side, she ends up pushing away her closest allies like Ashley and Will and Morgan of all people. Like, that is insane to me, that even though Morgan and Mickey, they have had a little bit of tension in the past and they were kind of breaking up, the fact that Morgan was so willing to actually turn on Mickey at this point in the game is absolutely insane to me and is a testament to how bad of a game Mickey played this week. And because Mickey was assumed to be the house target at this point, Mickey was left out of a lot of game conversations. Like, yes, she is still technically on Rachel's side, and that is a bit of a plus for her, but Mickey is out of the loop on a lot of the strategic going-ons in the game. So, all in all, I fully expect Mickey to go up on the block again if her side doesn't win power, which is why I have her here at number 11.
I think Rachel nominated me because she's intimidated by me. And instead of swarming around her, they're swarming around me because they smell the genuineness on me and the fakeness on her.
At number 10, I have Morgan. And Morgan actually surprised me this week. She was on a bit of a redemption arc ever since Zach left. Morgan actually did a really good job in repairing her relationships with the likes of Rachel and Ashley and Will, and was able to insulate herself into that new Judges Alliance, which I genuinely do think is an actual alliance that could stand the test of time if all of its alliance members actually stay loyal to each other, but that's besides the point. I think Morgan actually did a lot of effective work in repairing all of these bonds, and I think it is putting her in a better position. But Morgan was still a target. There was a very significant portion of time post-veto ceremony where the votes weren't necessarily 100% confirmed to be there for Morgan to stay. Like, yes, Morgan would have stayed against Mickey 100%. I believe that. But in the conversation of Morgan versus Rylie, the votes were definitely up in the air. Like, I think it generally came down to minutes before the live eviction ceremony where Vince and Ava were super unconfident about whether or not to keep Morgan or keep Rylie. And that is honestly really bad. The fact that Morgan couldn't secure the votes of her number one ally in Vince. Like, that's genuinely insane to me how Morgan has basically laid her game on the line for Vince, and Vince wasn't even able to guarantee his vote to her, but by the end of it, she does end up getting Vince's vote, so I guess that is some good work. But Morgan is still a pretty huge target for the other side of the house. People like Keanu and Katherine are really incentivized to put the likes of Morgan up on the block and target her, and that's honestly really scary for Morgan. I do think Morgan now has a pretty good backing behind her, but I'm just really nervous for Morgan if that other side were to win power, because there's just other people on her side that are more well insulated and don't have as big of a target on their back in comparison to Morgan, which is why I have Morgan here at number 10.
Week after week, it's been worst case scenario. Kelley and Keanu are still here. I lost Zach, and now I'm up next to my best friends. This is such a fun time.
At number 9, I have Rachel. And despite Rachel having a really successful HOH, I think Rachel was going to be in a worse position no matter what the outcome of this week was. Rachel was going to make a huge move no matter what. And because of that, Rachel was always going to be a huge target, no matter what. Like, yes, Rachel does an amazing thing for her game in getting Rylie out, as Rylie was a definitive number against Rachel and was somebody that could have actually genuinely won more physical competitions to target Rachel, especially with the wall coming up. So Rachel was really, really good in getting Rylie out at that point. But Rachel definitely drew a line in the sand this week between her side and the other side. Like, yes, Rachel has been able to solidify her side with the judges between herself, Will, Ashley, Morgan, and Vince. Plus, she has the ride or die with Ava, so that does give her numbers for her side, but that also inadvertently created the other side, which consists of Kelley, Keanu, Katherine, Lauren. Rylie would have been on that side if he stayed, and Vince is actually leaning towards on that side, as Vince is playing the middle of both of those sides. So Rachel is definitely creating a war between these two warring sides, and because of that, that just leaves Rachel super vulnerable. Rachel was trying to put in so much good work to try and get Kelley on her side, but after Rachel blindsided the house and put Rylie up, that 100% put Kelley on the other side of the house, to where Kelley is now 100% coming after Rachel, saying that, going to Lauren and saying that we need to win this next HOH and we need to target Rachel because Rachel is the biggest threat and we want her to be the first in jury and sit all alone because we don't want her to spend time with her family. Because I guess we're all evil towards Rachel Rylie for some reason now. But that's not even relevant at this point. With Rachel specifically, she was trying to build these allies, but unfortunately, because of her choosing to put up Rylie and make this huge move, which does benefit her game, it pushed away the numbers that she needed in order to secure votes for herself, like the likes of Kelley and Keanu, and I think that does leave her a bit more vulnerable. I would have had her lower, considering that she is more actively being targeted than the likes of Mickey and Morgan, but I do think that Rachel does have a little bit more support from the likes of Keanu, who would be more willing to work with Rachel and actually have the votes to keep her in the house. So because of that, I do have Rachel here at number 9.
I don't want to go down the road where we're targeting each other and everyone else is just getting a free ride to the end. At the end of the day, I do take my past Big Brother experiences into consideration.
At number 8, I have Ashley. And Ashley has like zero social capital in the house at this point. Ashley has proven time and time again that she has 100% accurate reads on a majority of the things that are going on within the house, but nobody listens to her because the other side of the house that isn't actively working with her absolutely hates Ashley and does not want to work with Ashley whatsoever, so they are unwilling to listen to this information that Ashley has, which ends up being true, which is honestly a really, really bad look for Ashley specifically. And because this other side doesn't like Ashley that much, Ashley is an active target for that side of the house. The likes of Keanu and Katherine have said that if they were to win HOH, Ashley should be the number 1 target on their list, which in theory should put Ashley lower on this list. However, I do think Ashley has been proven time and time again that she is able to rally support on her side. Plus, she has proven in the past that she can win a veto competition to save herself. So she does have that upside. Plus, Ashley has this new judges alliance that I actually do think could bear positive fruit for her in the future if things play out in her favor. Now, Ashley is still in a very precarious position that could vastly change depending on whether or not she actually is in a position of power next week. It really is going to just depend on who ends up winning this wall competition, because if the wrong person wins it, Ashley could 100% be the person evicted next week. But I do have a little bit of faith in Ashley. I do think Ashley did struggle a little bit this week in how she handled her Mickey-Rachel relationship, as she made it way too obvious that she was trying to save Mickey and as a result pushed Rachel away as an ally. But I do think Ashley still has a lot of upside to her game that could be positive for her in the future. While yes, she is a quote-unquote more primary target than the likes of Rachel, if you have Rachel Rylie on the block next to Ashley, I feel like everybody's going to be itching to get Rachel out over Ashley, because when are you ever going to get Rachel on the block again? So I do think Ashley has a little bit of protection in that sense, because her threat level isn't imminently as high as Rachel, but it's still precarious nonetheless, which is why I have her here at number 8.
Was Mickey acting kind of like a dictator the past few weeks? Yes, but Mickey was a number for me, so I really was hoping that Rachel would not put Mickey up for my own sake.
At number 7, I have Keanu. And it's still shocking to me that I have Keanu this high because Keanu on paper is just such a bad player, but actually with how the house has been turning out to be, Keanu's actually in somewhat of a decent position. Keanu actually did a lot of really good effective work this week in building this final two frenemies, fire and ice, whatever you want to call it, this final two deal with Rachel, and this should have been an absolutely golden opportunity for Keanu to move forward in this game. If it weren't for the fact that after the veto ceremony, Keanu absolutely torches this relationship with Rachel. Keanu was criticizing Rachel for this decision, saying how it wasn't a good move and how he should have been included in the conversation in putting Rylie up, because if he was in the conversation, he would have never allowed it to happen. And because he was so blinded in his loyalty to Rylie, Keanu was unable to see the bigger picture of how it actually could benefit him in the game, and that further created a divide between the two of them in Rachel and Keanu. Like, they genuinely had like one of the most dramatic breakup scenes I've probably ever seen on Big Brother. They had like this whole argument where Keanu's like, it's sad that you don't care because I did, and then he walks out of the HOH room. Like, that is pure like Bold and the Beautiful type drama, and I was absolutely living for it. But on a gameplay level, that's really, really bad. But I think Keanu has been doing some really good work in putting himself with the other side of the house. Keanu was so blinded by his loyalty in Rylie that he wanted to commit to that other side so badly. But as a result of Rylie actually getting evicted, I do think that other side in the likes of Kelley and Katherine have to pick up Keanu as a number out of necessity. And that inherently puts Keanu in a much better position. So I think Keanu does inherently benefit because of that. But I do think Keanu is still a pretty big house target. Like the likes of Mickey and Morgan still say that if they were to win HOH, they would put Keanu up and target him because he's been such a huge house target for so long. And that does worry me, which is why I have him here at number 7.
Rachel and I have had a roller coaster of a relationship. We're like those siblings that used to bicker when we were teenagers. But now we're grown, and we've come out the other side stronger than ever.
At number 6, I have Kelley. And I know in the beginning of the season we were calling Kelley the queen of the blockbuster, but at this point we need to call Kelley the queen of self-sabotage because she is making so many unnecessary actions to actively tank her position in the game. It is genuinely impressive. Like, Kelley was literally handed a golden opportunity on a platter for her this week, and she does everything wrong with it. Like, Rachel came up to Kelley with this golden opportunity of wanting to work with her. And it's not like a mutual thing where Kelley and Rachel came together, or it's Kelley reaching out to Rachel. Like, no, Rachel was reaching out to Kelley for her allegiance and a possible alliance. And Kelley decided to take this and throw it on the ground and step on it and absolutely disregard it because Kelley, for some reason, is so gung-ho on wanting to target Rachel and get her out of the house. Like, it genuinely doesn't make sense to me why Kelley so vehemently wants to target Rachel when Rachel actively wants to work with Kelley. But for some reason, Kelley is just so blinded by this anti-veteran sentiment that she just wants Rachel gone no matter what. And I think it is actively ruining her position. I do think that if Kelley were to kind of bite her tongue and kind of foe her allegiance to Rachel, it would buy her more time in the game and it would be able to put her in a better position. And she still would be able to go to the other side of the house and be like, hey, I'm still targeting Rachel. But because she is so open about it and she is so openly against Rachel, she's made it perfectly clear that she is on the opposing side of Rachel. And that makes her a huge target because the likes of Mickey and Morgan would put Kelley up alongside Keanu. And if Keanu were to win a veto, which is a very likely possibility, Kelley is put into a position where she needs to win the blockbuster again, which she has proven she can do, but she's also proven that she also can lose the blockbuster. So it's a nowhere near guaranteed position. I will say, Kelley did a lot of good work in securing the allies and the allegiance of somebody like a Lauren, considering that the two of them got really, really close this week. Like, almost close to like forming a final 2 together, which could bear to be pretty good for Kelley, but I just have no faith in Kelley to actually maintain that relationship, and I fully expect her to sabotage her game in a new and innovative way next week, which is why I have her here at number 6.
Aw, man, I can't have an ally for one single day in this game. Why do I instigate so much? What have I done here?
At number 5, I have Lauren, and I genuinely think Lauren lost the game. Like, no joke, I genuinely think this week lost Lauren the game. Not necessarily in, oh, she made herself such a huge target that she's going to be evicted by the end of next week. I genuinely think this week absolutely tanked her chances of winning any sort of jury vote. I would love to be proven wrong by Lauren actually making some sort of active gameplay and making her own decisions in the future, but this week proved that yet again, Lauren is probably one of the most indecisive players in Big Brother history. She's proven that once again, she cannot make a decision on her own and she needs somebody else to co-sign it because she doesn't want people to be upset at her, which is completely valid in the sense that she doesn't want people to be upset at her to the point that they would target her. But she's saying that she doesn't want people to be mad at her like on a personal level, and she doesn't want to make anybody upset when it's like, girl, this is Big Brother. What are you talking about? Everybody is going to be mad at everybody at some point in the game just because of how this game is structured. And Lauren wants to maintain that peace for as long as possible, but it's just not a genuine feasibility at this point in the game. And because Lauren was so indecisive in making her decision, she basically rubbed everybody the wrong way to the point that I don't think she has any respect in terms of a game player. I do think that if Lauren were to make it to the final two, I do think she would very easily lose a jury vote. Like, I would be not surprised seeing the likes of a Vince take Lauren all the way to final two just to beat her in the end, because Lauren has absolutely no respect in terms of jury prospects. In terms of her actual current game position, I think it's actually pretty decent. It's not as good as it was in prior weeks, but it's still nothing to like shake a tail at nonetheless. Lauren is somebody who would probably be put up as a pawn, and if somebody like a Mickey or Morgan were to win HOH, which is a bit concerning, but I still don't genuinely see anybody being like, we need to get Lauren out, we need to get her out, she's a huge target. Like, I don't think anybody, strategically at least, is saying that they need to get Lauren out. So I think that does buy her time, but even though she is in this good position, I just don't think she has any chances of winning this game in terms of jury prospects, which is why I have her here at number 5.
Obviously, this is an effort for me to use the veto on her, so I gotta give it to her.
Sorry, it's not funny.
At number 4, I have Katherine. And first and foremost, Katherine Woodman has finally been freed from Rylie. We have been asking for this for weeks, and Katherine has finally been freed. So thank you to the Big Brother gods or whatever powers are out there that saved Katherine from that man. But Katherine, on paper, Rylie going home should be bad for Katherine's game. I mean, Rylie was a huge shield in front of Katherine. Rylie was a huge number in Katherine's camp. And Rylie was somebody who was going to fall on the sword for Katherine in order to protect her in the game. So, on paper, Rylie going should be really bad for Katherine's game. But I actually think this is going to be a net positive for her, because we've seen that when Katherine is playing on her own, independent of Rylie, Katherine is actually a very competent strategic player. She is shown to have pretty decent reads on the house and actually knows what the most optimal strategic move for herself to make is. She was constantly campaigning to Lauren before the veto ceremony that if Lauren were to use the power veto, Rylie would be at risk. And Katherine was absolutely right in that read, although she wasn't actually successful in stopping Lauren from making the move. But still, the fact that Katherine was able to identify that the correct move for her game was for Lauren to not use the veto and was actively trying to make moves to prevent that from happening in Lauren using the veto, I do have to give Katherine some kudos. And now that Rylie is actually out of the game, Katherine is now a free agent in the sense that she can actually play this game on her own for herself. Yes, she's obviously going to be really sad that Rylie is gone, and she is going to have this period of being sad that could affect her vision on the game, but once Katherine gets over that, I think Katherine is going to be in a huge prime position to absolutely flip this game on its head. It might be a bit of an overstatement to say that, but I genuinely do think Katherine does have the capabilities to do that. She is shown to be a really, really good strategic thinker, and now that Katherine doesn't have somebody weighing her down, she actually has the freedom to go out and make connections with people she didn't necessarily have the prior opportunities to, with the likes of maybe a Rachel or an Ashley. Katherine now has these ability to possibly make these bonds, and I do think it could be good for Katherine in the future, which is why I have her here at number 4.
I've had a bit of a working relationship with Mickey, but unfortunately, Mickey is going to need to go eventually, and if she's still on the block after Blockbuster, then I might just have to do it.
At number 3, I have Ava, and it is becoming more and more apparent that Ava is a purely social player. She does not want to play this strategic game whatsoever. If she wants to make a move, she's going to make a big move and then throw her hands up and say, I don't really want to deal with it anymore, and then move on to the next week. Like, Ava does not want to be heavily involved in the strategy aspect of Big Brother whatsoever. Like, yes, she did make a big move last week in getting out a huge target in Zach, but she didn't really do any active work to build on top of that. She more so just like made the move and then moved on as if nothing had happened when something huge did happen, and that is prevalent in how Ava played this week. This could have been a huge week for Ava to boost her game and for Ava to actually ride off of the success of Rachel's HOH and use this as a building block to connect with other people on the other side of the house. But instead, Ava was just like, hey, I'm not in trouble, so I don't really care what happens this week. And that is really, really bad that Ava has this anybody but me sort of mentality, especially this late, or quote unquote late, into the game. I would honestly prefer for Ava to be a lot more active in a lot of the strategic moves she's making, but Ava's just more so concerned about survivability and making sure that she isn't a primary target when Ava could genuinely be in a huge swing position in these future weeks. Ava surprisingly was a swing vote this week. Like, I initially thought it was only going to be Vince, but it was Vince and Ava. More so because Ava couldn't separate the personal side from the game side in terms of how she felt about Rylie, and like she wanted to keep Rylie in the game for personal reasons. Maybe after she leaves the house, she wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but I digress. Ava was trying to figure out whether or not she wanted to keep Rylie or keep Morgan in the game when it should have been an obvious choice. Like, you obviously keep Morgan in the game. Come on, Ava, be so for real right now. But I think this week proven that Ava is a much more social player than a strategic player, and because Ava is so good at her social game, I do think Ava is in a relatively safe position. I do think if somebody like maybe a Kelley were to win HOH, Ava might go up on the block, but even then, she's nowhere close to being the target. So I do think Ava is still in a relatively safe position, which is why she's here at number 3.
Look, I'm trying to be in good with both of these ladies. So my game plan? Shut up and keep quiet.
At number 2, I have Will. And Will actually did a lot of pretty decent work throughout this entire week. He has been benefiting a lot through all of his close allies winning all of these HOHs, to where Will hasn't really had to worry about his position or his safety in the game because everybody who has won these past HOHs has kept him safe. The likes of Mickey, the likes of Ava, and now the likes of Rachel have all kept Will safe, and that is proving to be huge for Will's game because Will is just taking this time to really start building these bonds to where everybody is just leaking all of this information to him. And Will even points it out that everybody in the house just talks to him and everyone thinks that he has a fire social game, when in reality, he's not even paying attention to like a majority of the things that are being said, which I find to be absolutely humorous. But in terms of how Will is playing the game, I just wish he was a little bit more strategically active. He's more so reactive than like actually actively going out and making the moves himself. He's more so reacting to his environment and his circumstances, which I guess is fine as of right now. But if we do start getting closer to this end game, I do need Will to start actually putting these moves into motion in order to solidify that he's actually going to be in this really good position. I think even though Will is a super respected person by the other side of the house, I do think that Will could get a little bit unlucky if comp results don't turn out his way. When the huge targets like the likes of Mickey and Morgan and maybe even Rachel are gone, that's going to leave Will in a really bad position because at that point, he has no more shields in front of him to protect him. So I think Will just needs to start branching out to that other side and really start connecting with those people more. And if he does that, Will could be an absolutely deadly player. But as of right now, Will is in such a safe position. Like, nobody's even talking about putting Will up on the block as a possible pawn to go against Rachel's side. Like, Will is that well insulated within the house to where nobody is even considering putting him up on the block as a pawn anymore. And that is spelling really good for him, which is why I have him here at number 2.
The conversations that's going on in this house is wearing me down. They talk about everything, but they talk about nothing.
At number 1, the HouseGuest I believe to be in the best position in the house as of week 6 is Vince. And Vince is such a frustrating player because I know for a fact that he is a good Big Brother player. Like, I don't think anybody at this point in the game can deny that Vince is a good player. But he's just unwilling to accept that he is playing this duplicitous and villainous game. He is like the Nicole Franzel of this season, like Nicole Franzel before reindeer games. Like, Vince is kind of playing like how Nicole played in Big Brother 18, to where Vince is really well insulated in the house. Everybody really likes Vince, everybody really trusts Vince, but Vince is really unwilling to lean into that villainous side of himself. Like, Vince is not playing a loyal game whatsoever. He's not playing nice whatsoever, but Vince just cares way too much about these other house guests' feelings and how they feel about Vince, and he doesn't want anything to be a bad reflection on himself. And whenever something is a bad reflection on himself, he starts crying and starts talking about how, I can't believe that I'm just the worst Big Brother player in the world, and I'm sorry that I made you feel that way, and then like cries about it. When it's like, Vince, if you owned up to this really villainous gameplay, this might be a hot take, but I actually think Vince could be a very compelling character if he were to more lean into these actions. Like, if Vince was kind of like how Nicole was on Big Brother Reindeer Games, where he was kind of reveling in all of the villainous things that he was doing, I think Vince could be a very, very entertaining character as a game player. And I'm really kind of disappointed that we're not getting that out of Vince. But in terms of how Vince is positioned in the house as of right now, Vince is literally perfectly in the middle. He has the judges with himself, Ashley, Rachel, Morgan, and Will. But then he has this new alliance that Kelley tried forming between Kelley, Lauren, Katherine, Keanu, and himself. So he's literally positioned perfectly in the middle of the house. And best case scenario for Vince, this prior eviction would have been Mickey going home, because if Mickey went home, that perfectly puts Vince in the middle. But now that Riley's gone, it more so leans more power to where he has to side with the judges over Kelley's side, which isn't necessarily the best case scenario for him. But I think Vince could play the middle very, very well, as long as he doesn't do what he did during the Adrian eviction, where immediately after the vote, he starts crying about how, I'm sorry I didn't vote with you, Kelley. I just feel so bad about it and I couldn't tell you about it. Because if he does that, he's going to absolutely plummet once again. But if Vince can actually ride the middle and not blow up his own position by being too apologetic for his gameplay, Vince is going to be in a very, very dangerous position for all of these other house guests. Like, genuinely, Vince could ride this middle all the way to the end, and he could secure himself a victory. But it's just going to be a matter of if he can actually own his gameplay. But because he is in the middle and is probably the safest house guest at this point, I have to put Vince here at number 1.
What the hell was that? I don't think I did anything unethical or unclassy. Just trying to spin a narrative and make it seem like we're the bullies here.
Overall, this house is messy, they're chaotic, and I can't trust them to do anything in this game. Like, how in the world are Ava and Vince, two people who are so closely aligned with Morgan, unconfident about whether or not they're going to keep Morgan in the game? Like, are you serious? How are you not going to keep your own allies safe when they're on the block? It genuinely makes no sense, especially when you have somebody like Rylie on the other side, who is a huge threat that is so primed to get out right now. It's genuinely mind-boggling that the strategic minds of a majority of these house guests is so bad and so egregious. It's genuinely like making my head spin, but maybe that's what's making this season so entertaining and enjoyable in the first place, to the point that like we can't predict anything that's going to go on. And honestly, I kind of live for the chaos, and if this season keeps going on this trajectory, I think I could confidently say that this season might end up being the Survivor Gabon of Big Brother. But those are just my thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
I really can't do Mickey. Okay,
No, you cannot. Nice try.